Hi, my name is Paulie, and I'm an author, and I love to share inspiring stories from my life and the lives of those around me. I'm sure you've come across the story of Jonah, the prophet Jonah, and how the Lord sent him to a certain city called Nineveh to proclaim judgment on the people there because the Lord wasn't happy with the citizens of Nineveh. But Jonah really didn't want to do this. And so the Bible says that he got into a boat that was heading in the opposite direction. But the Lord caused a large fish to swallow the prophet Jonah. And it was while Jonah was in the belly of the fish that he decided to do what the Lord had asked him to do. By the time I got born again in October 2008, I was in business. I was running a company, seemed to be doing well. I thought everything was going okay. When I now began to, know who the Lord really was, I started to change around some things in the company. I started to try to be 100% honest in my business dealings. I began to tithe. I even started a prayer meeting every Friday. I mean, my staff and I and my co-directors would meet on Friday just after lunch, and we would pray and have a word from the Lord, and everything seemed to be going right. I tried to do things the way I thought a Christian business person should do them. But then in February 2009, I remember I went to the office one day, I opened my email, and I found an email from one of our clients, actually our largest client at the time. And they said, look, our economy has taken a turn for the worse. They were based in North America. Our economy has taken a turn for the worse, so we won't be able to continue with your services. And they gave us a 1 month notice, and then they said they would withdraw after that 1 month. So, of course, this was shocking. We spent some time in prayer as the co directors, but then we picked ourselves up and we moved on. After a few weeks, a second client, a similar email. Look, things are not going very well. We are not going to be able to continue with your services. We unfortunately and regretfully have to withdraw. So we continued. Of course, by now, revenue had gone down. We were beginning to have difficulties with our obligations. We were struggling to pay our employees, to keep our obligation with our investors, to pay our suppliers, but we moved on. After a while, a few more weeks, a third client. Actually, this client didn't even say anything, they just stopped paying their bills. And so we knew even this client is probably also facing the same situation. After a while, one of my co-directors, I remember, came to my desk and she said, I have a feeling for as long as you're in this company is going nowhere because I sense the Lord is calling you to serve Him. And I was like, I am a business person. I I am not called to serve the Lord. I refuse to see it. Because I thought, of course, now the Lord was calling me maybe to be a pastor or an evangelist. And I was like, no, I'm a business person. And I just filed that at the back of my mind, but I refused to process it any further. But then sometime around July of that year, I remember one morning, one of our employees came to see me and she said, because you were not able to pay us our salaries in full last month, I was not able to pay my rent at home. And so last night, my daughter and I were kicked out and we actually spent the night out in the cold. Now, this shook me because I realized that whatever was going on was affecting not only myself and my co-directors, but the entire company. All our staff were struggling the same way that the company was struggling. So I decided, and this is something I do from time to time. When I find myself in a challenge, I'll try to find time to sit in the presence of the Lord and just hear what He has to say. So I said, now later this week on Thursday and Friday, I'll not go to work. I'll just spend those 2 days in prayer and seek the Lord's face, just hear what He has to say about this situation. Even though my co director had told me something that I was beginning to suspect was true, I said, okay, let me spend time with the Lord and hear what He has to say. And on Thursday, when I didn't go to work, and I spent time with Him, the Lord answered me almost immediately. And this is what He said that Thursday morning. He told me, take a piece of paper. On that piece of paper, at the top right hand corner, write your name. Beneath your name, write the word laborer. Beneath that word laborer, write the words of Matthew chapter 9, verse 37 to 38, which says, the harvest is truly plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he will send laborers into his harvest. Now, I think the Lord could not have been any clearer in what He was telling me, that for sure He was calling me to be a laborer in His harvest. But I did not want to believe this. I had worked on that business, on that company, together with my co-directors for the last 7 years or so. And we had been tithing. We had been trying to be honest. We had been praying even in the office. We had the weekly prayer meeting. So, as a new Christian, I was like, surely, what more can we do? Why can't we labor inside the company? You know? So Monday came and I went back to work. But from there, I tell you, things just got worse and worse. No new clients. We continued to accumulate debt. We continued to owe our employees. We were not able to pay them because by now we were earning even less than half of what we were earning at the beginning of the year. This was now around September or October of that year. And we found ourselves really, really in trouble with our suppliers, with our investors, with our employees were complaining, and it was a difficult time. But I remember what really caused me to sit down and think hard about what the Lord had said to me was in the beginning of November, in the first or second week of November, when our accountant did the profit and loss statement for October and he gave it to us. I noticed that at the top of the profit and loss statement, where our revenue was, it said zero, meaning in the month of October, our company had earned zero. Not zero profit, but zero revenue. And so I realized that nothing was going to change, that surely this business was heading nowhere, as my co-director had said. So when December came, we packed our equipment, we gave up our lease, and we closed the business. But by then, things were really bad. We were in debt left, right, and center. We still owed our employees. Our investors were not happy. Our suppliers were furious. Even us as directors were in a serious state of despair. You know, in the story of Jonah, we are told that it is once Jonah was in the belly of the fish that he really considered what the Lord had asked him to do. And he debated with himself, and finally he said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And that's when the fish swam to the shore and it actually vomited him out onto the seashore. And he went to Nineveh and he did the assignment that the Lord had asked him to do. And this is what happened. It is when I was in a really difficult place. It is when things were so difficult in the company. It is when we actually had zero revenue that I finally sat down and thought and agreed to do what the Lord was asking me to do. And I became a laborer in his harvest. I know shortly after that, the Lord began to minister to me and he began to share what his purpose was for my life. Uh, uh, he instructed me to begin writing. I became an author. I published a number of books and I became that laborer that he had called me to be. And so when I was writing this story, I titled it when Jonah is in the boat. You know, if you are the Jonah in your boat, or you suspect that you're not doing what the Lord has caused you to do, I would strongly advise you that, like Jonah, take time to think, take time to reflect on what the Lord is asking you to do, and just come out of the belly of that fish and do the assignment that the Lord has placed on your heart.